There's a lot to love about God of War 2018, right? From the combat, from the story, from the glitz and the glamour and the graphics and all that, right? There's a ton to love about God of War 2018, but the one thing that a lot of people don't talk about that I really love is the times when either Kratos, Atreus, or most commonly Mimir are telling stories during your boat travels. We get really great insight from Mimir in terms of learning about the past events and events to come to fruition with some prophecies, as well as some great needed lore for the Norse mythos. And then we get Kratos, which definitely isn't, the best storyteller overall, but he does tell one story to Atreus that really caught my attention during this playthrough, and I hope that this gets brought up in a much greater capacity in God of War Ragnarok. So what is going on, guys? It is your boy TKD123 here, back in here on PlayStation Source, and let's go over how Kratos subtly told his past to Atreus way before he actually tells him that he is a god. So this is during the first half of God of War 2018. This is even way before you get hands on the Blades of Chaos and everything, and that's when, we really get the ball rolling on Kratos realizing that he must tell Atreus of his true nature, or else the inside godhood in him will always fight with his mortal self and whatever else he is that we learn towards the end of the game. And this was on the boat trip here. Atreus simply asked Kratos to tell a story, and here is what Kratos says.
Do we have time for another story?
A short one. There was a horse. The horse sought vengeance upon his enemy, a stag. But he could not kill the stag alone. The horse met a man, a hunter, and made a deal. He took the man's bit and bridle and allowed him to ride in a saddle on his back. Together, they killed the stag, and the horse tasted victory. But the hunter would not release the horse and made a slave of him.
So getting revenge cost him his freedom. Hope it was worth it.
It was not.
So something I didn't know beforehand before making this video is that Kratos is actually telling a real life fable back in Greek times, which is called The Horse, Hunter, and Stag. This story about a horse wanting to defeat a stag, but not being able to defeat the stag alone, thus enticing the horse to make a deal with a hunter to take control and ride the horse to kill the stag, but refusing to let go of the horse afterwards and making a slave of the horse itself, is the actual story of Kratos, Ares, and Alrik as well. I'll leave a link down below in the description to the fable itself so you can read it, but it is really cool that Kratos calls himself the horse in this story, given that they were hugely important in warfare, and given that Kratos is the youngest and boldest captain of the Spartan army, it definitely makes sense that he would be the horse in this whole story. But as Kratos says, the story has a horse with an enemy being the stag, which is a male deer if you didn't know that already, and the stag in the story, as Kratos translates to, is Alrik the Barbarian king. The horse, being Kratos, sought out vengeance against the stag, Alrik, due to the sheer number of barbarian forces that quickly overwhelmed the Spartans. Alrik even bested Kratos in combat and was about to kill the young Spartan captain until he called out to the hunter, aka Ares, the god of war. Kratos says that the horse met a hunter and made a deal with him so that the hunter could take control of the horse via saddle, bit, and bridle. That way they could both defeat the stag and the horse could taste victory. Translating this to Kratos' past, Kratos calls upon Ares when he is about to be killed by Alrik and makes a deal with the god of war, that if Ares helps him slay his enemies so that he may live, he will pledge his life to the god of war and be in service to him. Ares agreed and proceeds to kill the barbarians. However, just as the horse in the story had a bit and a bridle so that the hunter could control the horse, Kratos was given the Blades of Chaos, which were seared to his forearms as weapons more fitted for a warrior set out to establish the will of a god, but also be a reminder to the deal that they both struck. With the Blades of Chaos and the godly powers of Ares within, Kratos beheaded Alrik the Barbarian king and continued the battle. In the same way that the horse tasted victory in the story by defeating the stag, Kratos also tasted victory and kept indulging in it as he and his army led more and more military campaigns, all all in the name of Ares. They were described as ruthless and feared by many countries and many rulers. However, also in the same vein that the hunter would not release the horse and would make a slave of him, Ares would do the same thing to Kratos. Ares would use Kratos to fulfill his need and will for murder, and during that time, Kratos was admittedly okay with it. He was raised as a Spartan, a machine for war, so having godlike abilities to back it made him better at it. Kratos only wanted out once Ares pushed further and planted the wife of Kratos, Lysandra, and his daughter Calliope in his warpath one day. It was then that Kratos saw who he had become and vowed revenge against Ares. It was even more cruel since Ares had made Kratos kill his wife and daughter on purpose so that he would not hold back and become more full of rage. In a way, Ares also did it so that Kratos could better fulfill his will and purpose, which ties into the main takeaway of the Greek fable. Quote, "If you allow men to use you for your own purposes, they will use you for theirs." And to end it all, Atreus breaks down that the horse wanting to get revenge cost the horse his freedom, and so he hopes that it was worth it in the end. In the saddest way possible, Kratos says it was not. Period. He doesn't say that no, the horse felt that it wasn't worth it. You know, in this moment, he was directly talking about himself, because the whole time he was really talking about himself, and being that, of course, the horse was representing Kratos, the hunter was representing Ares, and the stag was representing Alrik, the barbarian king. And you can quickly see how this parallels to Kratos' life and how it was not worth it for him to make this deal with Ares, that this one decision caused him to commit so many atrocities against the innocent, kill his wife, kill his daughter in a separate side game that we probably have to talk about later on, kills his mother, kills his father at the end of God of War 3, kills a majority of the Greek gods within God of War 3 and the rest of the God of War series, and ultimately Kratos felt like he truly lost his humanity. In a way, I feel like I would really want to see Kratos go back on this story and really tell Atreus how everything went down, right? And you know, granted that may not be useful or may not be necessary. The bit that Kratos tells Atreus at the end of God of War 2018 is probably enough for Atreus. We probably don't need to get into the nitty-gritty of what happened.
Boy, listen close. I'm from a land called Sparta. I made a deal with a god that cost me my soul. I killed many who were deserving, and many who were not. I killed my father.
That was your father in hell. Is this what it is to be a god? Is this how it always ends? Sons killing their mothers? Their fathers?
No. We will be the gods we choose to be, not those who have been. Who I was is not who you be. We must be better.
But I feel like it would be really cool and neat to have Kratos sit down and fully give a nice summary of what he's been through, right? And, you know, talk about Ares, talk about the former God of War, talk about how he made this deal with him in the same way that the horse made the deal with the hunter, and really tie in all those things and replace the story with the story of Kratos himself. But I do find it really interesting that at the end of the day, Kratos was able to use this Greek fable to not only tell Atreus an interesting story of, you know, also a fable from his heritage, from where his people come from and all that, but also it was able to subtly tell his backstory in a way, right? And maybe that didn't connect with Atreus then, but I bet Atreus is smart enough. He's a smart enough dude. I bet as Atreus grew up throughout the events in between God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, that he came to a conclusion that maybe that story that his dad told him on the boat years ago about a horse hunter and the stag was perhaps his story all along. Down below, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Kratos should eventually tell him about the real intent of this story, or do you think that Atreus probably picked it up and probably knows the intent as he grew up? What are your thoughts down below in that comment section? And while you are down there, please do not forget to check out that description. You can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and of course our Anchor link that way you can listen to our long form content and podcast format. Road to Ragnarok is well underway. Ragnarok is indeed coming in about 2 weeks time, I think, on the clock. We are heading there very soon, but we do have this week's episode coming out, episode 4 on Thursday, where we will be doing a review of God of War 2018 in the year 2022. Was it like 4 years apart? Was it like on the PS5? How do I feel about knowing a little bit more backstory about Kratos from playing the past games? You definitely don't want to miss it this Thursday with my boy Mr. K-Step, aka Kyle Stevenson of PlayStation Trophy Room. Like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as subscribe to PlayStation Stories to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.